good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gameweek 6 pod of the FPL Wire, powered by DreamSetGo. I'm your host, Zoph, and I'm joined, as always, by my friend Big Man Bakar. How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Zoph. The game week was decent. I ended up on 62 points, which is fairly decent. I was expecting more, especially after the games on Saturday. I remember texting you, and I was being all smug, in fairness, about my score. We both me and Zoph had the same players left after the 3 p.m. kickoffs on Saturday, and I was being smug that I have an extra player, Lucas Dean, left, so I'll probably end up outscoring him. But unfortunately, I ended up with egg on my face, and it was just a horrible night. I mean, I just put my phone away as soon as that happened, and I went to sleep. Honestly, that was absolutely horrible. The stuff of nightmares. But overall, I guess I was due some kind of bad luck, given the fact that I got a lucky goal out of Rafinha and even from Benrahma. So overall, I'll take it. It's a green arrow for me, but I've been haunted by Luca Dean for quite a significant period of time.
What about you, LR? How was your week?
Oh, the FPL took a backseat. The emotions were high on Sunday evening after that United game. What a bloody game that was. I mean, topsy turvy. I thought we completely deserved to win that game. I thought we played really, really well. And after those two penalty calls, I think the ref had. I mean, to be fair, West Ham also deserved a penalty, in my opinion. Just emotions were running high. I haven't screamed so much in a while after a game, and especially because it was De Gea saving redemption there, especially for Jesse Lingard's goal redemption there. So yeah, happy day. 63 points with 10 men, green arrow with 10 men. I'll take it.
I think
What
I've
you, Zoff?
found
How's your week?
exact same score 63, small green arrow. I think pretty much 63 for both of us, 62 for Bakar. Pretty much sort of. I think that's sort of week where there wasn't like much rank movement, but I was just happy not to fall too much. I know a few people made gains with Tony and all that stuff, but it's just a kind of week. I had 10 players, for example, with all these like benching, Torres,
So,
Trent, and all that stuff. So I'm happy to get a green somehow.
Yeah, I know. I mean, people who were patient with Ivan Tony, fair enough, Greens. But also, I think a lot more people kept hold of Ivan Tony because Antonio got that red card. I think people were close to switching him out, but because there were other problems in DCL and Antonio size problems in their teams, they held on to Ivan Tony. So I think there was a fair bit of luck involved there as well. I don't want to rule that out. Outside of that, Ismail Assar, I mean, I remember you telling me pretty much for the first 5 or 6 games. This is the second time this has happened now, Zoff, where you haven't heard your instinct on your player. It was Benrahma first and Sar second. Any Sar grapes? Any poor, feeling bad there with regards to Sar?
A little bit because I was iffy on Torres, but it was more of a fear pick. It was this fixture against Southampton. Like, what if he is starting up front? Like, because if he was starting up front, you think they'll hit 4, 5. What again? So it was more of a case of like, maybe I thought I was possibly overthinking it with Torres, seeing his bed, seeing that he's playing it with like 3 days, but maybe I had a gift horse. I was overthinking, so I thought, why not try it? But I think Sar is coming in this week.
Sar is already coming for another friend out here, sitting with a grin on his face. One more Saturday night move, Bakar. What's up with the early moves?
my team is on the edge, actually. I mean, I don't have a bench, and it's just the fact that I don't really see the point in missing out on too many rises, given the fact that I'm gonna wild card in 7 or 8 anyway. So I thought if there's any other injuries, because I removed Ferran, right? Ferran Torres out for Sar. I just didn't want to keep Ferran Torres for Chelsea and Liverpool, regardless of the fact whether he's going to play or not. I don't even want to get into that headache, because honestly, no one knows whether he's going to play. It's a roulette. I don't want to take part in, particularly with the fixtures coming up, and the fact that SARS next to are very, very good. So I thought that transfer was a good one in isolation, and in case I suffer any other injuries in my team, then I might as well wildcard 1 week early. I don't think it's too big of a deal.
All right. If I was in your place, I'd start planning that team already because Bamford's not in the squad for the game tonight. We don't know what's going to happen come Thursday, Friday. I did see him
Yep.
trotting in the last 20, 25 minutes, but I think it's something he can run off. Let's see. We don't have information at
Yeah.
the moment.
Was it a bit of a rage transfer, Bakar, after the Dean owned G? Just like Get this guy out of my team also.
No, I mean, I thought 10, 15 minutes about it, and I honestly didn't see a reason why not to make it because I wanted Char for the next two, and Torres was an easy sell, honestly. So I didn't see any reason not to make it. In
Yeah,
case there was another transfer I needed, that then like my team is down to bare bones as it is. I just had that wild card in my pocket, and I thought I could afford to be a bit more aggressive. But yes, if someone like a Greenwood looks like missing out, or Rafinha or Bamford are more or less ruled out, then I will seriously consider it.
Yeah, and
no.
even if it was an emotional move, even if it was, I don't think there's anything wrong. I mean, we are
No, I
human
just
at
want
the
him
end
to
of the.
say it.
Yeah, you just want him to admit it. That's all.
No, I
Yeah.
think it was a perfectly it was met with a lot of rationale behind it. It wasn't a knee jerk move in any sense of the word. I looked at my bench and I just figured out it is not sustainable that I continue um, going with a dead bench for the weeks to come. Even this week, I was lucky enough to get 10 players on the park, and that included Simicast. So I mean, I don't want to be flirting with any kind of rotation over the next coming game week. So just let it be.
Yeah, other
All right.
flirtations demand far more attention. Moving on to our sponsors.
Before we move on to the sponsor plugs, I just want to tell the 430 sized audience watching us to hit that like button. It helps us get found. And if you're on Twitter, please share our stream so that more people can come watch us right now. Let's do the sponsor plugs now, Zoph.
Right. DreamSetGo is a global portal for fans to gain access to sporting events around the world. Accommodation, flight tickets, hospitality, stadium visits, everything can be tailored exactly to your requirements. They also do celebrity experiences, which include masterclasses with your favorite sports celebrity or something as simple as birthday shoutouts. You can find links to the products in the description below. They're also tying up with some top notch Premier League clubs, which we will announce shortly.
Also, the FPL Wire is a part of the Fantasy Scout Network, and all the stats used in the podcast are taken from the FFS members area. Please sign up using the link in the description below if you haven't already. And if you haven't joined our league, we've got a ton of people competing. I think the top person in our league is currently in the top 100 overall rank as well. We got around 200 people in the top 10K as well at the moment. So some stiff competition there. The league code for the listeners is GKTIYM. If you haven't joined our league, please do so.
Right. We have on a super chat right now
And
in
if
the
you
chat,
want
and we
to
all.
support our
Go
content,
ahead.
if you
Sorry, Bakar, I just want to say there's a super chat now. If anyone, please
yes,
hold
if
your
you
questions later. And we
sure.
also had a lot of super chats in last week during the chat. We thank you, but please hold them for the Q&A later. Go ahead, Bakar.
Yes.
If you like our content and want to support our work, please sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/the FPL Wire. All your support is much appreciated. Thank you.
Right. Let's dive into it, boys. Then, so what do we kick off with?
Should we start with the wildcard discussion or should we start looking at the fixtures and the results from last week? What should we go?
I think look at the games first.
Cool.
I
Yeah, I
agree.
guess the wildcard transition segue into it. Newcastle Leeds was a great way to start the weekend. So many doubts going into this fixture. Lucky points for Bamford, Rafinha. What do you guys think?
It was a game of basketball more than football. I actually called it football. 15 saves amongst both the keepers there and 38 shots in that game. But takeaways from that game, I'm actually interested in St. Max once Wilson is back in the team. I think there's been a significant improvement in his end product, etc. as well. So somebody I'm monitoring, and shout out to Chuck Booth from the FPL panel who got a lot of abuse when he shouted out Saint Max at before game week 1, and sometimes things work out. So I wouldn't throw abuse at anybody recommending anyone. Let them have their opinion. It's their opinion, and they're entitled to that. Outside of that, Rafinha is kind of that player. When you own him, I think you're always going to feel shortchanged after the game because he had so many chances in that game. But the goal was sort of lucky as well. So I think it evened out. I think Leeds United dominated for the first 30-35 minutes. In that period of domination as well, Newcastle had 2 or 3 big chances, really big chances. That game should have had a lot more goals than it did. Anything else, Pucker, from the game?
Rafinha, I mean, he's now missed 5 of his previous 6 chances and big chances. And when we talk about the fact that Rafinha He's an explosive pick, and he doesn't really haul as much as the underlying numbers show. I mean, this is exactly why he needs to sort of work on his finishing. And once he got that lucky goal, he was just one involvement away from hauling big time. And his ownership isn't that big in the top 10K. It's around 33%. So anything from him would have been really, really helpful. But it was super annoying to see him waste that chance. He took a bit too long, but overall, I'm happy with the fact that at least I got returns out of both Bamford and Rafinha.
It's like KDB's spirit from last season has gone into Rafinha. So 4 out of the 8 goals that he scored in the league, they've been from outside the box. So he's a great finisher from outside the box. But the moment he's inside the box, I think he overthinks and that sort of thing happens. That's all I have to add. A little bit undone as a Bamford. I don't know. I mean, yes, the assist was lucky, but I thought that Willock foul on Dan James was a definite penalty. So feeling a little undone. Bamford should have had a penalty in that game, I thought. And a lot of people are talking about Bamford not looking sharp, etc. In the last 25 minutes, I think he was just running with an injury. So that scuff shot that he did from, I think, Rodri's pass, he was barely running at that point. So I wouldn't read too much into it.
The one thing that has worried me was if Ailing misses out at the weekend, you're probably going to see Phillips move to centre back, and then probably you have Dallas, who's also going to be at right back. Who's going to play in midfield? There's going to be you have to bring on a lot of the sub guys. So in general, I'm a bit worried about Leeds short term.
And so many new names we're seeing in the last 30-35 minutes. We saw this guy called Somerville and somebody else who started playing in central midfield as well. So it seems like they're on their last legs at the moment when it comes to squad strength. I think the international break can't come soon enough for Bielsa at the moment with the injuries piling up. Definitely feeling good as a Antonio and a Benrahma owner going into this game week.
Bakar, how do you feel not owning Antonio going into next week?
At the moment, I'm comforting myself with the fact that I'm going to wildcard by game week 6 before game week 6, so I'm sort of okay with it. But honestly, it's going to be a terrifying game to watch because I am a stats guy and his stats are absolutely incredible. So let's see what happens. I mean, if Bamford's out, then I'm in huge trouble, right? Let's see. But I mean, I fully expect him to run riot. I mean, there's a stat I noticed about Leeds. Leeds this season have conceded the most number of chances down the middle. Excuse me. And even last season, the significant amount of chances they conceded zonally were through the middle. So they definitely have a weakness in there. Antonio has an 80% goal involvement this season. I think he's going to do really well this week.
Also, I just generally think they struggle against teams that are very direct and have runners that are going at them. I think they struggle with such kind of teams, and that's exactly what West Ham are going to do with Benrahma and Bowen. They've got good runners in that team, so I'm feeling good with that West Ham double up at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Move on, next fixture.
Yep. Just want to say to Rafinha owners, though, definitely a hold. Don't even think about selling. I think he's comfortably one of the best picks in that price bracket at the moment.
Definitely, unless we hear news that he's ruled out, which I don't think he will be. Yeah. I think
agreed.
Definitely hold on. Wolves, Brentford. Brentford were well-deserved winners. I thought they played very well. In terms of chance creation, I watched the whole game. Traore is very, very frustrating to watch as an owner. He just can't underhit a cross ever. Every cross just seems so OP. It's almost ending up at the corner flag. Jimenez didn't look very sharp. Defensively, I think they might go to a back four the next game. Something Marcel owners have to watch out for. They have Podence coming back to fitness. A lot happening here.
Marcel the wrestler or Marcel the football player? I mean, what was that?
That was
he had
a
2 or
suplex.
3. That was such a suplex.
It was so hilarious. It was almost as if he was doing it on purpose.
He was doing it on
Bolly.
purpose.
They should have really played Bolly that game. I think they got it wrong. You need somebody that size aerially to play Tony. Marcel against Tony is a bad matchup.
Agreed. I think they haven't been feeling like making the changes because the results have been coming. So Large has been at it, not making those changes.
More than the results are performances than the underlying numbers, right? Everyone's nowadays all about XG and all that stuff, even the coaches. So we're seeing like, oh, my XG has been good. Let's stick with this team.
Correct.
So a bit more in this game. Oh, you can go on, Pranil. Sure.
No, go on. Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to say that this switch to the 4 at the back you mentioned, I think this could be a very interesting point to monitor from now on. And with regards to Semedo, I've been going on about him for weeks, but if Wolves switch to Ford the back, then his involvement could be limited. Now that's a thing which is worth keeping an eye on. Obviously, I don't think it's worth selling anyone from the Wolves team after one poor performance, but it's just something which is worth monitoring. I saw the second half of the game, and Traore, he was playing very wide on the right. I don't think he was carrying any kind of goal threat. In the new system, and I think he has more of an assist threat in that role. And Jimenez, in fact, I think his owners have been very unfortunate not to get any return so far. 3 points over the past 2 games, despite the fact that he's had two big chance involvements in each of his previous 2 fixtures. He headed just narrowly wide right at the end, and I think he really should have had at least something, despite the fact that Wolves were poor. And the other thing I'd like to say is that Brentford, I was hugely impressed. Tony, I don't think Brentford are the kind of team which will score too many goals this season. They're in the bottom 5 for XG non-penalty, and I from what I've seen so far, I don't think they'll be involved in too many high-scoring games, as we assumed would be the case at the start of the season. But their defense has impressed me. We'll speak about this more in detail, but even this week alone, they restricted Wolves to just the 4 shots inside the box, as compared to their average of 11.25 shots inside the box in the opening 4 game weeks.
With Jimenez, I think the powers are going to come back now because the band is off. Did you notice that? As soon as he missed that header, he took it off in anger, and I don't think he's going to wear it again. Even Lars was mentioning in the post-match interview as well that he feels like it doesn't go as correctly as he's used to when he's heading the ball if he's wearing the protective headband. So I wonder what happens there.
Let's talk in terms of FPL. Tony, is really a hold given the next few fixtures. I'll bring up the fixtures really quick.
Who do they have next?
On the next few, Brentford they're right at the bottom. They have, the Wolves fixtures already, the stickers a week old. You have Liverpool, West Ham, Chelsea, Leicester.
I think who do you sell him for at the moment? Is there a ready-made replacement? That's the problem, because all the strikers are getting injured and falling like flies at the moment.
Correct. Only Saint Max in that similar price bracket, but I think you could probably hold him on because I think his goal involvement is still going to be good. And the good thing is, these tough fixtures are all at home.
So what I'd do is that I'd keep him for the next 2 game weeks. I'd sell him before Chelsea, because at that point in time, I think that the fixture swing for Southampton is perfect. And Adam Armstrong from game week 8 on has Leeds, Burnley, Watford, Villa, Norwich. Now that is a run you want to take advantage of. And over the next 2 fixtures, he has Liverpool and then West Ham. West Ham, I don't rate their defense very, very highly. I think he could do well in that fixture. And he has such a good involvement. Like even this week alone, he was involved in over 60% of their chances. So I think he's a good hold for the next 2. And then you can easily ship him out for Adam Armstrong, who has great fixtures.
I actually think Boomer might do better in these tough games compared to Ivan Toney, because he's the one making the runs beyond the defense, and I think they'll be relying on some sort of counter-attacking strategy in these games against tough opposition. I want to see how they do against tough opposition, because I can't wait to get to the captaincy discussion this week, because I think it's the biggest talking point. So let's leave that discussion for then.
Wolves, in terms of FPL, buy, sell, hold, I think it's sort of a don't buy, don't sell.
I don't know. I don't know if you can draw a conclusion from one game.
I don't either, because Brentford are good. And that penalty currently changed the game state also. That being said, I thought Brentford were the better team. But go on.
And everybody on FPL Twitter were like, Wolves is the best thing since Swiss cheese until this game. So how much do you draw and how much do you conclude from this game alone? I think you wait. I don't think you wait. I'm still in the market for a 5.1 million defender. Would you? And it's a 2-week punt. Wolves are facing Southampton away and Newcastle. Would you talk me out of Semedo at the moment?
Not necessarily. I think we haven't discussed. It's either him or Tierney. I think Tierney also is pretty good over the next 2, Spurs and Brighton. Either one of the 2 is probably the best bet short term.
And not even short term, right? Wolves are top of the season ticker, or at least up there right until game week 12-13. So it's a long-term play with these guys. And I think I've seen enough to have faith in them and not lose patience after one.
I completely agree. I think I in fact prefer Semedo over Tierney, because Brighton away and Spurs are still slightly tricky fixtures for Arsenal. Next week, Newcastle at home. Now that's a really good one for Wolves, and I think that should be a clean sheet. Even if he's playing in as part of a back 4, you the first and foremost thing you want out of a defender is clean sheet. So at least he's going to give you that.
Correct. So I don't think it's a sell for sure, and it's still potentially a buy, I reckon.
Mhm. Let's see what
Yeah.
happens with the shape.
Yep.
Next fixture, Burnley, Arsenal. Ramsdale is somebody I really want to talk about. He had another good game, commanded his penalty box very well, and I think unless he has a howler or two, I think this is his spot to lose now.
I agree. I'm happy to see you come on to the other side so far, but I'm with you. I think you take some more time to be convinced, and that's a good trait to have. I was talking to Baker, who did a pretty brilliant thread on
Thread, yeah.
defenders as well, and the interesting thing that he pointed out was that Ramsdale is going to get a lot of passes, etc. as well. So he's going to be up there for bonus points, and Arsenal are continuing where they left off from last season, where it seems like it's a defense first team. The attack is still young and it's not clicking as much as yet, but defensively they're showing some sturdiness. I quite like the look of their Japanese right back as well. He's impressed me so far. He seems very gritty, which is what I like about it.
Yeah, no big chances conceded over the last two matches. They have played Norwich and Burnley, but worth mentioning.
Yep. Bakar, anything from the game?
No, just the fact that Arsenal looking better defensively. The fixtures have been great, but no big chances conceded now over the past two fixtures. That's nice. It's nice to see that they're doing well with the fixtures, and now considering that they have good fixtures coming up from 7 to I think 13, is it? I think they at least one defender could be a good investment.
Also, just thinking about it loud, if Arsenal are not going to be a free scoring team, because I've not seen anything to suggest that they are going to be a free scoring team,
Yep.
It increases the chances of bonus points amongst the defenders and the keeper. Bakar, I just wanted to ask you, do you know what counts towards those baseline bonus points for a keeper?
Yes, recoveries,
Pass completion and
pass
saves.
completion,
It's
passes, recoveries, catches,
exactly.
all that stuff.
Catches, yeah.
Nice. So that should work out well for Arsenal. I mean, if you're in the
No,
market
and
for
the
a
thing
defender,
is, the
I would.
fullbacks are lopsided, right? Tomiyasu, I think that's his name. He doesn't really go forward, so it's only Tierney who's getting those attacking bonus on that side in terms of chance creation and stuff. That also helps.
Correct. Just wanted to say, just point this out. It has no FPL impact whatsoever. But Cornet, when he came on for that little cameo, is a 6 million Burnley midfielder. In the last 30 minutes, I thought he looked really, really sharp. He seems like he's got goal threat. So just wanted to mention that as well. No other takeaways from this game. From an attacking standpoint, I don't know if I want to go with Arsenal just yet. We don't know who the best attacker is going to be.
Next two are a good wait and watch, I think, to see how Saka, etc., do over the next few.
Yeah. ESR is constantly getting into good positions right from game week 1, but his finishing is not there. He's gotten a fair few chances, I've thought, but he's just not finished them.
Next fixture.
I still think Pepe could be the one. I still think Pepe could
That's somebody
be the
I'm
one.
hoping ahead of the game week 8 swing where they play Palace, Villa, and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm hoping
he's
Pepe
the one who's
shows some
actually
form.
standing out in terms of their numbers as well.
Great.
Correct.
Liverpool, Palace. Let's talk about the
Just
Jota
before we
miss.
move on to-
Go ahead. I'm
just-
just itching to
just
talk about the
before we-
Jota miss.
Before we move
I
on
wonder
to-
if you would have had the
Pause,
similar
boys.
grin on your face had you owned them.
Before we move on to Liverpool Palace, there's a lot to talk about Liverpool Palace. I understand Burnley, Arsenal. Mihir, our mod in the chat pointed out that the problem with Tierney is the fitness. I just don't think it's as much of a concern if they're playing once a week. That's the only thing I want to add.
Yes, agree. But I think he had some injury issue even during the Burnley game by the end of it.
Yes, he was taken off as a precaution, I think.
Yeah, he does so much work, right? Liverpool, Palace, Bakar, you want to take the lead?
Sure. I mean, I can see the huge smile on her face, and I wonder if that would have been the case had he owned Jota. I don't own him either, but I honestly feel sad for his owners. I mean, that miss from
Don't play that. You just called me after the game like, yeah, Jota Black, and you're making me out.
No, I mean, obviously I'll be happy, but at the same time, I'm sad for his owners as well because it's usually unlucky. It's not as if that
You're not
he
sad.
to come out of that game with
Don't
points.
play
I
that.
just dodged a huge amount of points, which is something I naturally will be happy with. But his owners were hard done by, in my opinion. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, now Firmino's going to be back in training. I don't think he's going to get more than 60 this week. I expect him to start, but I think this is probably going to be his last start before the City game. I think he gets dropped in that. Salah is Salah. There's nothing much to say about him. Um, Palace have actually impressed me. I want to talk about Palace here, and they really impressed me. I watched the whole game. The numbers aren't great, but they dominated Liverpool for good spells in that game, and they came usually close to scoring. And I think as a Simicast owner, I consider myself lucky because Liverpool weren't at their fluent best, and Palace were decent. And I Gallagher again, he was taking up some great positions on even on the eye test. He was looking great, and he's someone I have an eye on for the fixture swing when it happens for Palace later on in the season.
Yeah, Palace looked good. And I think, like you said, Simicas, you can feel lucky but also feel unlucky because he had both the corners. They just got one touches before. He could have got the assist for like if Salah had hit in the goal, if Van Dijk hadn't gotten a touch, etc. So works both ways.
Yep. Just wanted to mention actually, Bakar, glad that you pointed out Gallagher because stats won't show what his positioning was like throughout the game. And for every
Exactly.
cross or every chance that came, he was in the center of the box. And even a touch map won't show you that when you're looking at this. So yeah, I'm with you on Gallagher. I think he's looking like a very, very solid pick on the wildcard when I do that in a couple of game weeks. I do want to talk about Mo Salah though, because I think he's gone up a gear. It's the best I've seen him play. When was the last time Salah was getting one or two headed chances from corners? I mean, he's so sharp. He's jumping onto everything. He's latching onto everything. He's tracking back a lot. So it's just I think he's gone up a gear in performance, and that's why I think he's just making a much better case for captaincy this week. Again, I can't wait to get to that discussion. But yeah, I think he's gone up a gear. And just wanted to mention Van Dijk, somebody who we haven't spoken about, because Liverpool are leading for goals from set pieces in the last year and a half, and Trent is back now, and the delivery is there for him to take advantage of. And Bakar, he's a bonus point magnet as well because his baseline bonus points are really, really good. Somebody we should be considering because Mane is too expensive to go unless there's a good run of fixtures. Jota might not be nailed anymore. What are your thoughts on Van Dijk?
Hearing you say Van Dijk makes me
I
smile.
I won't go there personally. I just think there's far too much value in some of the other defenders. I mean, if I'm considering Van Dijk, I might as well get Rudiger, Diaz, Cancelo, that price range. I just think there's too much competition.
All right, and I was actually sad. Any idea why Matip was benched in this game?
Rotation.
He was rested. Yes, he was rested.
All right, because if I was in the market for 5.1 million defender, I thought I was actually looking at Matip for the 2-game week punt, despite them having City next week. But something to monitor because I think he could be interesting because Jota is not going to be in the equation pretty soon, right? Because Firmino is going to be fit, and we might have a Liverpool spot that might be opening up. So just who do you guys like for that third spot if you want to go there at the moment?
Not necessarily anyone, I think. I think you can get better, more
Exactly.
laid options.
All right.
Exactly.
Cool.
Just a couple of points. Gallagher, I was talking about. I forgot to mention he was also on set pieces. Now that's another thing which adds to his value. The second thing I forgot to ask, if I ask you who's the guy who's top for shots inside the box and big chances this season, what would you guys guess?
Sadio Mane, easy by a distance.
And he's missed so many chances, so many chances. I mean, he's had like three goals in his past 4 games, but truth be told, he could have had so many more. He's had like 21 shots inside the box this season, which isn't reflective at all of the way he's been finishing. He's just been very, very wasteful. Obviously, picking Salah over him is the right play because Salah is a bit more clinical, actually far more clinical, and he's also better for chance creation. But Sadio Mane's numbers are actually very, very impressive this season. It's just that he needs to be more clinical.
I think it's been the pattern since 3.5 years, 4 years. There was a 18-month period where Mane consistently outperforms Salah. And the read that I have of the game is when Trent is at the peak of his powers, it actually favors Mane a lot because we see a lot of those crosses that go to Mane because Mane occupies the center forward role. And that also needs Firmino to play instead of Jota because Jota occupies a lot of the center forward positions because he's in there for the crosses when Firmino isn't there. So I just think that, and I think Mane is eventually going to get over his little finishing drought. I think him getting so many chances is a skill in itself. And I actually like that for the chasers in the FPL ecosystem because whenever Liverpool have a 2, 3, 4 run of games which look really, really tasty, there's a differential there for the taking should you want to rise up the ranks. I think it's right there for the taking. I think he's aptly priced, and I think he might come into play in this season.
Mhm. Agreed. I think
Agreed.
Jota, you should probably hold him for another week at least, sell after.
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't sell before Brentford. I mean, there's a lot of, let's just talk about that. There's a lot of talk about, Brentford having really good defensive statistics, but Brentford haven't faced a proper caliber opposition so far. And the only real decent team they faced, in my opinion, is Arsenal. And if you remember, Arsenal scoffed a lot of chances in that Game Week 1 game as well. I mean, Liverpool are playing in a separate stratosphere, top of all the attacking stats at the moment. So it's just a discussion we'll have later. But
Again,
I
for the
take those
captaincy.
Brentford.
I know you brought this up like this is the fourth time you've brought it up. I can see you've done a lot of homework, but I'm sure I'll give you a hard time on this one.
Yeah,
I'm actually
yeah,
looking
yeah.
forward to it. Anyways, move on, Zoff.
Cool. City, Southampton. The only shot on target came in the 90th minute.
Yeah, Southampton have impressed, haven't they?
Yep, and this is what we'll talk about later when we talk about the captains for Lukaku in Game Week 7 when we talk about the wildcard discussion, whether it's worth making the switch then. We'll talk about it. But in general, City, even though they had most of their players on the pitch, the attacking players, they didn't really create anything clear-cut opportunities.
Correct.
I thought they
But
generally labored a bit.
I do think KDB coming into play changes this though. And just a prediction, because it's not the game against Southampton I want to talk about. I want to talk about the 6-3 versus Leipzig, where De Bruyne started in that right midfield position. And what I saw in that game was a lot of crosses came from that right midfield position to the central area where Grealish was hovering a lot. So it's something I want to monitor Game Week 8 onwards, because they have a pretty decent run of fixtures after that. And if Grealish is, because Pep mentioned in his press conference that Foden has been training in the LCM position, in the left midfield position, which has been occupied by Bernardo Silva so far. So my thinking is, if that left midfield position is Grealish's, and if De Bruyne is constantly going to play in the right midfield position, if Grealish, credit to FPL Praiser, we were having this discussion. He mentioned that the problem with Grealish is he's not attacking that central space aggressively enough. But I think Pep will coach that into him. So it's just a dynamic I'm waiting to see in terms of what happens there, because I reckon Grealish could be an asset at 8 million once De Bruyne comes into the team.
Agree.
The couple of points I'd like to make here as well. First is the fact that Southampton restricted City to a modest XG of 1.1. Their defensive numbers of the season have been good, and Livramento then again at 4.2. I just mentioned their fixtures from Game Week 8 on. I think he could actually be a playable option from Game Week 8 onwards. The second point I'd like to make is regarding the City defense. This is now their fourth clean sheet, and we haven't really talked much about them this season. No team has conceded fewer shots inside the box, big chances, XG conceded. You just named the underlying statistics, and they're top for them. Now, Cancelo is someone I want to talk about at 6 million. It looks as if he's cemented a first team berth given his recent performances. He's also actually second for goal attempts and penalty area touches among defenders this season. Is he someone you guys would consider on a wild card this week or in Game Week 7?
I think it's perfect that his next 3 games are PSG, Liverpool, and Chelsea, because I think that's the asset test. If he passes that asset test, he's in.
Agree.
Okay.
That's
Good
exactly
point.
what I've got in mind. And we'll talk about it more when we get to do the Alonso section
Correct.
about the defenders with upside. So should we move on? Norwich, Watford?
Yeah. Yeah, let's move on to Norwich Watford then.
The Ismail Sarr show. Yeah, he had
Yes,
what,
Zoph, why don't you talk us through this
he
one?
had what, like 5 big chances? I'll just pull up his stats really quick from the. This is the stats
4.
numbers for the season so far. Is ranked 4th for XG non-penalty behind Salah, Gallagher, and Mane. But a lot of it is just, I think 1.4 alone is from the Norwich game. So the stats are obviously inflated, but one key change that we noticed is that Sissoko now has moved to a deeper role and cleverly has moved to almost a number 10. I noticed James noticed this on Planet FPL, and I think that's going to benefit Sarr a lot in terms of chance creation. I think Watford are going to create more opportunities.
But I wonder if it's just for the Norwich game, because if Cisco fancied this game to play a slightly more.
But the next 2 especially are
Sort
going to
of,
be like that, right?
attacking.
Because you have Newcastle and Leeds.
Correct.
And that's the main advantage about that.
Correct.
Because you also look,
I mean,
you
the
look
main
at the data over here now. I want to show now. For shots conceded, XG non-penalty. This is now for open play goal attempts conceded, Leeds and Newcastle. Let me fix this. Yeah, they're right at the bottom.
Correct. Yeah, looking good for Sar. And I think the big factor that came into play in Sar's benefit was Con's favorite Kiko Femenia coming into play. Because I remember when FPL Lions Luke came onto our show, he mentioned that Sar and Femenia had actually developed a very, very strong relationship on the right hand side. And Femenia wasn't fit for the first 4 or 5 game weeks. And uh, the other fullbacks they have, I don't even remember their names, but they aren't quite as attacking as Kiko is, and they've developed this good relationship, which is why Sar made a lot of infield runs as well, because Kiko was occupying the width on that side. The only thing is he got subbed off in the 59th minute, so I wonder if there's an injury there,
There is
or was it just
possibly an
precaution?
injury. It's not precaution. There is possibly an injury. But Kiko is so injury prone. That is the problem with it.
Yeah. And also, I think you take the Norwich performance with a slight pinch of salt. But that pinch of salt applies to Watford's next two opponents as well, being Newcastle and Leeds United. But, Watford were goalless in the last 3 matches. They hadn't created a single big chance from game week 2 to 4. And then here you go, play at Carrow Road, and 6 big chances come Watford's way. So I think it's also a case to do with Norwich. And like you guys mentioned on the previous pod, Norwich are definitely the team to target at the moment until they solidify at the back.
Really not much to
Just
talk
one
about
point
from
I'd like to
FPL.
mention. You guys have covered everything. You guys have covered almost everything I wanted to say. Just one point I'd like to mention. Zoff, you brought up Newcastle stats. So Newcastle, over the course of the season, are actually fourth for chances conceded down their left. And if you filter that over the last 4 game weeks, they've conceded the highest number of chances down the left flank. And now that's the flank Sarr is likely to play at. And I think he could exploit their weakness. And the rest is has just been covered by you all. I just think the factors are in his favor to do well.
Yeah, I mean, you just need to recollect what Rafinha did in that game against Newcastle. So much open
Yep.
space. So much open space. I actually have a question to ask you, boys, because I could be in the market for a cheap 2 week, cheap striker punt. King or Dennis? Who do you guys like there?
I've actually
King?
done some research on this. LR, I was looking at their positions centrally. King was playing centrally. Dennis was playing on the left. King had 3 big chances. Walmans as compared to Dennis. Dennis is one. So Dennis's goal was the only time he had a big chance. At Walmans, he was sort of playing
Oh, there was
wide,
there,
and
there was
King was
another
King
run
was
as
more
well.
central.
Bakar, there was another run where Sarr crossed the ball in and Dennis wasn't able to reach the at the end of the cross. I remember that chance as well. So there were 2 chances, I'd say. That is just not recorded is all.
And do you think there's an outside chance that King might be on penalties as well?
I think so.
I
So,
think
yeah,
there's a
because
chance.
King likes
I
taking
could be in,
penalties.
yeah, let's say Bamford isn't fit for the weekend. I could be in the market for a punt.
I like that move. I completely agree with it.
Yeah, this was something I wanted to ask you boys. So yeah, you think King? You think as well, Zoff? The only slight worry that I have is João Pedro's fit again, and he's highly rated amongst the Watford faithful as well. So I wonder if anything happens here. But I don't think Cisco changes a working system until after the international break. Now, does
Yeah,
he?
I think it's going to be a short-term move.
Yeah.
As a short-term move, it's fine. Definitely not one you want to stick in long-term.
All right. Cool. Next game.
Villa Everton. Villa switched shape to a back three. Good numbers. Bailey was very impressive. I think he's going to be a great option once he actually gets up to full fitness. Everton didn't really offer that much. I think they're missing the presence up top.
Yeah, I think you take this result with a pinch of salt because it was fairly evenly contested. I don't think Aston Villa dominated that game. I mean, the only difference in this game was that 25-minute cameo from Leon Bailey where he came in, ripped them apart, got a yellow card and went off. So, and he does look really, really good. I think Ings, Watkins, Bailey as a front three is going to be very, very potent. And you do contextualize that back three because actually, Zoff, should I ask you that right now? Because I want to ask you how Villa's defensive performance was against your lot. Were you convinced in terms of how they defended with the back three against your team?
They were pretty decent. They didn't actually give us too many chances. Just as the chances we had, we converted. I think they outplayed us at the bridge.
Yeah, I do know that they're a good team that can give you a game. But does that mean they're not going to concede chances? Defensively, how were they? They held shape? Are they going to shut shop? Were they effective in not giving much. XG wise, how was the game, if you
If
recollect?
I remember wise, we also heavily rotated that game. So it's hard
Yeah,
for
you
me
had
to
Cho
tell
playing.
exactly. We had Hudson Odoi playing. We didn't have Bound playing. So I think we have it was right after international break also. So I don't think that's an accurate barometer.
Correct. And also, what comes into play is Axel Tuanzebe, who's been used in the three at the back. He's not going to be playing against United this game week. So, what happens? Does a third centre back come into play, or they move back to four at the back? Because
They have
Bailey
Courtney
looked really
House.
good.
They could
They
probably
have
sub
Courtney.
him there.
Yep, yep.
Few points I'd like to make regarding Damari Gray. I really like the positions he was taking up. He was playing it's sort of in the hole in behind Rondon, and he came agonizingly close to scoring with the shot just past the far post. I think he's looking well, especially with Norwich. Norwich are just gifting points to whoever they play at the moment. So I think he could be a good shout if you're looking for a 1 week punt in midfield. Other than that, I mean, I think Everton were decent. It's just the fact that Villa were far more clinical. In fact, both the teams had an equal number of shots inside the box. Um, Aston Villa had an XG of like zero. 0.8. They were just a bit too clinical. I think Everton missed Pickford to a certain extent. They didn't have the bite up front without Richarlison or Calvert Lewin. And this is something which is pertinent going into game week 7 as well. Now, if because uh, Benitez sort of mentioned that there's a chance that Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, and Pickford might all be out for till the international break. If that's the case, then Ronaldo in 7 becomes a very popular option, given the fact that Everton might be depleted. And Dean, I mean, as a Dean owner, I was noticing that he wasn't even on set pieces this game week. It was just a painful game to watch. I mean,
Who was on set pieces?
Townsend and Gray were
Townsend and
sharing
Gray.
set pieces in this game, and Dean wasn't really getting too much far forward as well. I think there's been an instruction given by Benitez clearly not to by to his fullbacks not to overlap that much.
Yeah, I think now that you mentioned Townsend, Doucouré, and Gray, still, I think if you're in the market for a 5.5, 6 million midfielder, you still go Sar, right? I mean, he's number one for me at the moment. The
Yes.
only other options I like in that price range a lot are Mbuemo and Gallagher. They don't have the fixtures at the moment, so I'd go Sar.
I don't think
Because a lot of
Sar
people
versus
have asked
Gray
us.
is so clear cut though, because you have Sar. If you look at it for a longer period, let's look at for as a block of 4 fixtures rather than just one fixture. Sar has now in his next two Newcastle, Leeds, Liverpool, and Everton. Gray
And after
has
Everton, it's Southampton as well. So I think the fixtures are there. I don't mind playing him because,
it's not bad.
like it's not
It's not
bad.
bad.
Exactly.
But at the same time, Everton's fixtures also they have Norwich and then you have United away, which is not that great. Then you have West Ham and Watford. So
Correct.
it's not 100% Sar thing. I think it's more of a 60-40 thing.
But if you had to pick one, you'd go
If I had to
Sar.
pick one, because I'd say Sar because I think he's more of a talisman. And I think
Correct.
Everton in
And
general, little bit, I think there's going to be a bit of a slump now without Richarlison and DCL in the team.
Correct. I mean, they
you
have
know, a
4 or
lot
5.
of people. Sure, go on, Pranil.
Yeah, I was just saying that they have 4 or 5 good players in that team. Just 4 or 5, and 2 of their best players are injured. So Everton are going to be depleted. That's all.
A lot of people are dead ending their teams in 7 or 8 and are looking for punts, particularly those who are Ferran Torres owners. And I think for them, Sar is a better shout because he has a better fixture in 7. So if you choose to wildcard in 8, Gray has United away in 7, and Sar has Leeds in game week 7. So I'd go with Sar so that it gives you the opportunity to wildcard whenever you feel like, whether it's in 7 or whether it's in 8.
Agree.
But next, move on. Brighton, Leicester.
I mean, the guy playing at left wing back
Cucurella.
impressed me. Cucurella. He
I
looked
like you
really
didn't
good.
even try to pronounce his name.
Yep. I left it to you. I thought he had a good game, but I thought Leicester did well. I thought they were a little unlucky in this game. I thought the second goal from the corner, which was
Shocking
ruled off, was
decision.
definitely
Shocking decision.
such a
He
terrible
definitely.
decision. I think the Westergaard pull from Neil Maupay, our favorite Neil Maupay, wasn't a pen either. So I wouldn't read too much into the Brighton Leicester result as such. I thought it was evenly matched. Leicester deserved at least a point from that game, but Pereira has been playing really well on that right hand side, and Loki Lukman has been combining well with him on that right hand side. So I wonder what happens next. Vardy's been looking sharp as usual, and it's interesting because they do have a run of 3 good fixtures. I think Javi Barnes owners also have been really unlucky in the past 2 game weeks because he had a fair amount of chances this game week as well, and he hit the post again this game week. So just they're on the bad side of variance at the
Yeah.
moment.
If you're a Harvey Barnes owner, still you have more like patience than the Buddha. You must have
Correct.
been a complete state of Zen. Not much else
I
to
just
add.
like to talk about
Go ahead.
Duffy here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just like to talk about Duffy here. 2 shots inside the box yet again. Now he's top among defenders for goal attempts inside the box this season. I was listening to Graham Potter after the game. He was very complimentary of Duffy's performance, saying that he's been sort of rejuvenated and he's he's playing really, really well, and that he feels as if he's a huge part of the team. And from judging from his comments, I don't think he's going to be dropped over the next few fixtures. What do you guys reckon? As
No, I think very much so.
someone
Very much
who's,
so.
who's looking to,
Especially with Webster's
as,
injury, I think Duffy is actually a key part of how they're set up now.
and
Yeah, but
do you think he's going to
that-
keep his spot when Webster comes back?
I think so. I think he would.
that's
that's
something
more
I'm not
guesswork.
sure about.
That's guesswork.
That's
That's more
something-
guesswork. Yeah, because I think Webster will definitely come back in. He offers a lot to that team, more so than what Duffy does. Veltman, I guess, would
And
really be
Lamptey
the one.
is probably going to be back soon as well, right?
Lamptey's in the squad, so was Burn. Both of them were on the bench against Leicester. So they have they're 2 game weeks away from having a fully fit defense at the moment, because you need to keep in mind that the international break is after 2 game weeks. So there's a 2-week get fit period as well for Webster. So
I mean, Duffy at the moment is just the kind of guy who I know is a good pick, but just because of this fear factor, I won't pick him, and he'll end up scoring points for all of my casual rivals week in, week out.
no, irrespective, if I was buying in that bracket, I'd go Liverpool over Duffy at the moment.
Yeah. The fixtures also.
I just think he's
I agree.
more
I
nailed.
agree.
I think Southampton have better fixtures mid-term to long-term. I think Brighton's fixtures are drying up very, very soon. So I don't think he's a buy at the moment.
Right. West Ham United.
Yeah. Versus Manchester United, I thought we played fairly well. To be honest, we created a fair bit. But the problem with United at the moment, and this is something Carl Anka touched upon in his article as well, is we're showing moments of 10-minute, 15-minute phases where we are attacking a lot and creating chances. We're not controlling a game completely like how a Liverpool or a City would, So that's something I'm worried about when it comes to our performance in terms of consistency, because we're a Jekyll and Hyde team. On our day, we can put 4 past anybody, but I can't put my house on betting on the fact that, we are going to put 4 past the opposition at the moment, because we're just not consistent at the moment, and the problem comes from our midfield. So that's something I wanted to talk about. Ronaldo, it's clear that our play is tailored towards Ronaldo getting a huge chunk of chances. I mean, Shaw had a ton of crosses this game week. It was frustrating to watch us have so many corners because we just didn't hit the head with even one of them. But I think Ronaldo is definitely the best option in this team. And except for Shaw, everybody else is not as good an option as they used to be.
Yeah, let's talk Greenwood. Is Greenwood now a bit of a rotation risk?
Yes, a little bit of a rotation risk, because and even if he's not a bit rotation risk, I wonder how many times he's going to get 90 minutes, because Lingard had a good performance. Sancho, I thought, was pretty decent in his cameo against West Ham as well. Applauding Ole's subs. I thought his subs were really good. Little worried about Greenwood. I think those that are dead ending their team in 7 or 8, fair enough. But I think after that, people are going to get rid anyway because the fixtures turn sour.
Bakar?
Yeah.
Yes, I want to talk a bit more about how United are setting up under Ronaldo. So I did a bit of research in this. So for the first 3 game weeks, United were ranked 12th.
Ronaldo's not a manager, under Ole.
Under Ole, but with Ronaldo. Okay, good spot.
No, but he wouldn't be wrong. He wouldn't be wrong.
You're speaking the truth, Bakar. Don't let me correct.
For the first 3 game weeks, United were 12th for crosses, averaging 16 crosses per game. Ever since Ronaldo has arrived, United are ranked 3rd for crosses, and now they're averaging 28 crosses per game. So now that's a significant increase. And a large part of this can
include corners as well.
It does, yes.
It
It does
does, yeah,
include corners.
because
United have had a fair few more over the past two game weeks, but
again,
in
in
general,
the West
still,
Ham game, we had an insane amount of corners. I think there were 10 plus
yes.
double figures. So
Over the past two game weeks, United have had like 16 corners taken by Shaw alone. But in general, even his crosses from open play have gone up. And, he was averaging 5 crosses per game from game week 1 to 3, and that has risen to 13.5 crosses per game. No player has had more crosses than Shaw in the past two game weeks. So now that is something worth keeping an eye on. And this is why I think he's still a good pick for the coming two game weeks. Villa, they're ranked like 20th for XG from open play this season. Everton are without Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. I still think he's a good hold for at least the next two fixtures.
who? Greenwood?
Greenwood, sorry?
No, sure. Talking about Shaw.
Sure.
Yes. Greenwood, I liked his movement in the game against West Ham. His numbers haven't been usually impressive, but his movement was great. From the eye test, he looked good. He was at times almost like the second striker with Ronaldo. Um, but his
What
numbers haven't been good. He's had just the one shot inside the box over the past two game weeks since Ronaldo has come.
Spot on, because I think our attackers, even our midfielders, even Bruno and Pogba, they're so wired towards finding Ronaldo at the moment, because Greenwood actually did make a lot of really good runs. Even if you think about just before Ronaldo scored, there was a chance where he just needed to square Greenwood first time, and Greenwood was through on goal. It was there was nobody else in front of goal. So I know for a fact that Ronaldo isn't going to change this. He's going to go for goal. He's just a selfish guy who's going to make sure he keeps his average of 5 shots a game consistent. But even Bruno and Pogba weren't finding Greenwood as much as they should, because his runs were good. He was getting so frustrated. It was fun and funny and frustrating watching an 18-year-old Mason Greenwood throw his hands down every time Ronaldo just wouldn't square the ball to him. But I think he's going to have to get
I remember that one chance, especially when Ronaldo could have easily squared in for a tap in.
Yeah. Just talking a little bit about Ronaldo, I'm surprised by how good he's been, to be very honest. I wasn't expecting him to be this good for us in terms of the sheer sprinting pace that he has, the change of pace that he has, the positioning, the peeling off that he does. His movement is elite. He's actually a gear and a half above Cavani as a player in that central striking position. He's going to be really, really good. And I wasn't expecting him to be this good, is all I want to mention. I think we're going to get a fair few penalties again this season as well, because his change of pace and his quick turn is going to do a few defenders. And we have a certain Marcus Rashford who's also capable of winning a lot of penalties. I think he's going to be very crucial. I think Rashford is going to be very crucial in the next phase for United, because when it comes to playing versus the big teams, we rely on parking and countering. And Rashford is the most crucial component in terms of that pacey transition that we have. So I'm happy that we are having our games against deep blocks in the first 5 or 6 weeks. And we have Rashford probably going to be fit for that game against tougher opposition.
So Greenwood, if
I'd
someone's
just
looking
like
for an
to-
exit for Torres, sorry, because there's a lot of people asking this question in the chat. Would you advise anyone to buy Greenwood as an exit for Torres? I don't think so right now.
Nope, I wouldn't go there.
It's a bit risky, I think. Yep.
Yep.
Anyways, I was going to talk about Fernandez now. His You would have noticed that a lot of people are saying that he's had just the one shot inside the box since Ronaldo has come, but he's still getting a decent amount of action in the penalty area. He's had like 9 penalty area touches. I still don't think he's a bad pick. He's still creating a decent amount of chances. He's had like 3 big chances created over the past 2 game weeks. It's just that with the other options around, Ronaldo is obviously going to be the obvious captaincy pick. So he's still a sell for me, but I do think he's going to get a sizable number of points very soon.
Great.
Anything
West
to talk
Ham-
Any
about
thoughts
West
on
Ham?
Benrahma? Benrahma, I think, is worth mentioning.
We were so lucky. I think all 3 of us are Benrahma owners. Those are very lucky points. But I think he generally looked quite good. And I think West Ham in general are a team to be taken seriously this season as an attacking team. I didn't think they would offer much without
Definitely.
Antonio. I was quite impressed with how well they played. I have to give hats off to Moyes.
No, even their attacking underlying numbers last season's off. I wrote about this in my preview thread. They were decent. They weren't bad. And this is one of the reasons I was sort of set on keeping Benrahma this week, because I didn't necessarily look at this game as a bad fixture. Benrahma, I still think has overperformed to a certain degree. He's had just the 2 penalty area touches now over the past 3 games, which is something worth monitoring. He's not getting in those touches which we expect him to, but he's certainly a hold for Leeds and Brentford, but certainly worth monitoring.
I think I really like the matchup versus Leeds United because, like I mentioned, they struggle with people running directly at them. I think Benrahma is going to be that player running beyond uh, the last line of defense in that game. So I like Benrahma as a matchup a lot versus Leeds United. Versus Brentford, not so much.
Then move on. Spurs Chelsea.
Yes.
What a game. First half, I really don't know what was going on, but great substitution by Tuchel, bringing on the cheat code that is N'Golo Kante. But I think there's only one player, and I currently want him more than Lukaku in my team, and that's Marcos Alonso. So not much to talk about him quickly in terms of data. You see, in terms of expected goal involvement, he's behind only Trent and Cancelo, and it's just the eye test. Now he's taking so many corners. We are doing these in-swinging corners, and he's pretty much our second striker as after Alonso, and so he's just constantly in the box, and it's so difficult for me not to buy him. And I think he's got the shirt now over Chilwell. We read some comments from Tuchel about how Chilwell had a difficult start to the season because of the Euros and stuff, and eventually he will be bedded in. But let's have a quick look at the fixtures for Chelsea going forward. Now, let's say you are going to have Norwich at home, going to have the likes of Burnley at home, Southampton at home. These are the games you would want an Alonso in, right? You don't want a Rudiger. I mean, Rudiger is pretty nailed. Rudiger can still get you the odd, and it feels odd saying this on a weekend where Rudiger scored a goal. But the potential of Alonso in these fixtures is so massive.
Alonso should have had at least a double attacking return in that game against Spurs. At least. He's your second best attacker. He's probably as involved as Lukaku in your attack. Like that's the I mean, just for the benefit of the listeners, Zoph and me have been going crazy talking about Alonso and how good he's looked as an asset. But I do want to mention that after the conversation we had and after us putting him on the next pedestal, I did visit the Chelsea forums. I spoke to Josh and a few other Chelsea fans as well. And the thing is, like you mentioned, the fixtures. I think Tuchel might use these easier fixtures to help Chilwell gain match fitness now and probably play Alonso in the tougher UCL games. Do you see that happening, Zoph?
I think it should probably be the other way around because against deep blocks, I would think Alonso is more effective. But I know it sounds like I'm bullish on Alonso, and I think we have sort of missed the boat. But there's one caveat if you're thinking of bringing him in right after the Man City fixture. Now, after playing Villa in the Carabao Cup, we play Man City, then we play Juventus away, which is on a Wednesday, which is worth mentioning, and then we play Southampton at home on the Saturday. I think there's rotation coming there, especially with the Wednesday game being away and Saturday. So I would look to see who's playing. If you see Alonso playing against Man City and playing against Juventus, I would bet that Chilwell's going to get the start.
Yeah. You think he's done enough to be number one in that position now?
I think he does. I think it's pretty much his spot to lose now. Chilwell is going to be playing instead of him in the odd game, at least for now.
Do you think he's worth it?
I'll put you on the spot here. If you were on a wild card this week or in the coming week, who would you go for? Would you go for 2 Chelsea defenders? Would you go for one? If yes, can you rank them from 1 to 3?
I guess again it depends on the rest of your squad. Now, if I was going for a wild card, the ideal 3 which I would go in defense would be Trent, Alonso, Diaz, and you can put up your bank. You can have like someone like a White and Livramento on the bench, and I think
No,
that
I'm
covers
talking
you really well.
specifically. I'm talking specifically about Chelsea defenders.
Right. So obviously,
Alonso is the
I
guy to
mentioned
get you.
Alonso. I think Alonso has to be right up there now. Is worth the rotation risk because the upside is just so huge. And especially until we see Chilwell starting a couple of run of games. But the trick is now with the wild card, the next 2 fixtures is where it's a bit tricky with the Man City.
What are
and
your
the
thoughts on
Juventus
Christensen
fixture.
at 5 million?
Again, very good, but very limited upside. The thing with these guys like Christensen and Rudiger, they're not going to be very good for bonus very well because ultimately you have so many of the attackers. And then in defense, you have Aspie, who hogs a lot of the bonus as well.
And Thiago
When he plays occasionally. So I like Christensen, but I think it's sort of a waste. I know a bit big. If you get Christensen, you can probably get another good sub after, but there's so many better options in that defense than Christensen.
Yeah, I'd still have Alonso 1, Reece 2. I mean, I see a lot of
Yeah.
people regretting moving for Reece James this game week, and I'm like, that's just so much hindsight talking there. If I had to pick this game week, also I'd pick Reece James over Rudiger. Rudiger scores once in a blue moon. He's that kind of a defender. Reece James has constant, incessant attacking threat, and the kind of fixtures that Chelsea have in the league, game week 7 onwards, they're the kind of games where I think Tuchel is going to rely on Reece James in that right wing back position. I think what happened with this game is, I think, A, probably it could be the robbery thing where Reese's head was not in the right place. Maybe that. Or secondly, I think he's very wary of the counter threat that Son and Kane post, which is why he played a slightly more defensive uh, right center back and right wing back duo in that position as a tactical thing. And tactically speaking, in the fixtures game week 7 onwards, they're the kind of games where they'll need attacking impetus from that side, and which is why I think Reece James is going to come into play. So I still rate Reece James above Rudiger at the moment.
Yeah. I think going back to Bakar's question, probably Alonso, James, Rudiger would be my three.
James
Right.
second. That's interesting. Still,
I think
Yeah.
because the games
It's
are
worth
easy. I think.
mentioning that
Go ahead.
in the midweek game in the Champions League, Rudiger almost scored a volley as well. He's got that madman streak, where he ran from half line and almost scored a volley in that game as well. Generally, does he have goal threat? We have Kamzi in the chat mentioning that we might be underrating Rudiger's goal threat. What do you reckon, Zoff?
Doesn't have significant goal threat. I owned him for a large part of the second half of last season, so he doesn't have significant goal threat. He's not a Van Dijk or someone who's going to score like loads of goals, but he could still get like 2 or 3 season. I think somebody like Zuma had much more significant goal threat, and maybe with Zuma gone, Rudiger occupies that role of threat from set pieces. So worth monitoring.
And would
one
you?
last point. You mentioned Alonso over Rudiger. By that logic, don't you prefer Cancelo over Diaz?
The thing is different, right? Because I think Diaz offers a completely 100% secure role. I don't think Rudiger is as secure as Diaz is.
Also, something that Baker mentioned in his thread as well, Diaz is actually a bonus points magnet as well.
That
Because if you know the role that these City defenders have, they complete their pass completion and are above 90% pass accuracy, which is really great for their bonus points numbers, especially if uh, City are keeping a clean sheet. Diaz is always up there for the baseline bonus points as well. So that's something that is in his favor. And I
Yeah.
reckon I'm with Zoff on this. I think you sort of pick your risky picks and you pick your steady picks. So I think if you go for a Rudiger, you can afford a Cancelo. I think if you go for a Diaz, you can afford an Alonso. I think you balance
Exactly.
it out.
You balance that. That's exactly the point I was making.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? Move on to the wildcard discussion.
No, just wanted to ask you, Mount stock has gone down now, Zaf?
I think it was possibly, you don't know whether it was tactical. He was playing poorly, but maybe it was more of a tactical thing that was required in this game. And it might be something we see against City as well for a midfield thing. But Mount is always going to be there and thereabouts the first 11.
All right. I just want to talk about Spurs because I actually like their first half performance when Ndombele and Lo Celso played. And I mentioned to you guys last week as well that they don't have any players capable of creatively transitioning and making forward passes in midfield. And Lo Celso and Ndombele are such a huge upgrade on what Harry Winks and Skip offer when it comes to ball progression. So I'm actually interested in monitoring that because there's this little cheeky run of fixtures, game week 7 or 8 onwards, where Son has 3 or 4 fixtures on the trot where he could be useful. So just worth monitoring. If they're playing these creative midfielders, I think I'd be interested in Spurs attackers again.
Maybe when the fixtures get a little bit better.
Yeah. Yep.
Speaking of which, now let's jump into the wildcard discussion. Now these are the fixtures we have up here for game week 7. This is where a lot of us had identified as a fixture turn where Chelsea plays Southampton. What are your thoughts on this, Ella? We were having a discussion where we're talking about a lot of our players which we have already in our squad have good fixtures this week.
Yeah, I mean, I was always talking to you about wildcarding in game week 7, but the visionary that you are like, no, you're not going to wildcard in game week 7. You're going to wildcard in game week 8, and I see why you're saying that now because I'm not much of a planner. I don't like having preconceived notions when it comes to an FPL ideology. I don't plan too much because I don't want to influence the instinctive thinking that comes to me after watching a weekend of football and after absorbing the sort of stats they have. But I was noticing the fixtures and I couldn't help but notice that, currently I'm having two West Ham attackers and they play Brentford at home in game week 7. I currently have two Leeds United attackers and they play Watford at home in game week 7. Like Bakar mentioned previously on the pod, Manchester United versus Everton, it actually looks like a really good fixture for Manchester United at the moment. And I have Ronaldo, Greenwood, and Shaw in the team. So I'm if I'm wildcarding in game week 7, I'm probably wildcarding out some really, really good players with some really good fixtures, which is why and obviously you get to see out the Liverpool versus City game as well before moving on and jumping onto some Manchester City assets should you want to. So the fixture shift is more pronounced, like you say, in game week 8, which is why I'm thinking very, very heavily about game week 7 wildcard. Game week 8 wildcard. You mentioned to me that you're looking at a game week 15 wildcard as well. You're not necessarily looking at a game week 8 wildcard at the moment. And again, I won't be surprised if I come to that conclusion after you talk about the game week 15 wildcard later. But at the moment, I just see so many opportunities where Chelsea's fixture shift is obvious, as you can see. Southampton have a really good run of fixtures: Leeds at home, Burnley at home, Watford away, Aston Villa at home, Norwich away. I think they have great enablers. Livramento and Adam Armstrong could be in contention at that point. Ramsdale is a keeper switch that we want to make. If he's starting the North London derby, I think that spot, and he does well in the North London derby, that spot is his to keep. So I'm sort of beautiful minding a wildcard team uh, in game week 8 at the moment because the fixture shift is pronounced. And so many teams I want to target: Chelsea, City, Leeds United, Southampton, Aston Villa. I think also have a good run of fixtures. Arsenal, I mentioned there's a short run of good fixtures for Spurs as well. So these are the fixtures I'm looking at. And the discussion that you and me were having, you were telling me that your team is in good shape. I don't think you might need to wildcard in game week 8 either. I mean, you make one defensive and one attack move, get two Chelsea guys, and your team is in good place. But I think that's also coming down to a sort of a ideology difference that you and me have when it comes to playing FPL, where you're very patient as a manager, very much more patient as me, and I actually like making opportunistic luxury transfers. And I can't make those opportunistic luxury transfers if I'm behind the game. And I think it's probably the latest I've wildcarded in years, game week 8. So I just want to get a team where I can have a chance to stay ahead of the game with my moves game week 8 onwards. And the fixture shifts are there to take advantage of. So yeah.
Speaking of late wildcard, I think Bakkar's messaged me every Friday now. I think for the last few weeks, I'm going to wildcard. I'm. What are your thoughts, Bakar?
I've been seriously tempted every single week. From game week 4 onwards, I've come agonizingly close to doing it. Even in game week 3, I remember I came very close to doing it. Let's see how long I can hold off. I think a large part of that this week is dependent on the Leeds injury news.
Yeah.
So
Just make sure that if you're waiting for Leeds injury to use, I would start thinking about my wildcard team today. Like I would have
Yes.
started thinking about my wildcard team yesterday, because I was talking to Adam Hopcroft and he's been on the edge wavering last game week, who hosts the fabulous Green Arrow podcast. And he's been wavering and he pulled the wildcard button 15 minutes before the deadline. And he was like, obviously the decisions weren't well thought out, etc. And he regretted the move as soon as he push the wildcard button. So it's just something that comes into my thought as well, because we are going to be having this team for a long time. So I just like the idea of having 2 weeks to mull over, think over every decision that we can possibly think of in the international break in this case. So I'm okay, like I mentioned on the previous pod, I'm okay sacrificing some points to just get proper information, proper mind space to think and build a good wildcard team. So I think about that also, Bakar, because you never know what happens in the international break. Some injuries, some information changes. I think City are going to give us a lot of information in the next 2 game weeks as well. So I wouldn't want to have a quickly thought out wildcard. I'd want to mull over it for a long time.
in terms of information, now there's a good point you make, because that's the main reason I'm a bit hesitant to pull the wildcard is I think we're getting new information every week and I'm still not comfortable. I was listening to Always Cheating today morning, that podcast, and I think one of the guys is without Ronaldo. And he's been playing FPL for a long time now. And he said that was the worst 90 minutes of watching football he's ever experienced without owning Ronaldo. So I know we've been talking a big game about getting rid of Ronaldo in game week 8, game week 9, but I don't know if I have the stomach/balls for it. So it just doesn't feel right, because I'm not sure right now that I don't want the three premiums, because the weird thing is all the players I want are expensive defenders and expensive forwards, and just Salah is the only premium mid I want. The mid has sort of dried up. Torres and Greenwood aren't looking that great. None of the City mids are delivering consistently. All the mids I want are like your Sar, Rafinha, Gray, Benrahma. So that three premium thing is sort of becoming more affordable in my mind. You could even consider going something like, very aggressive five at the back. You get like your James, Alonso, Cancelo, Diaz, Trent. Just load up on all these expensive guys, because Chelsea and City are looking like they're going to keep 20 plus clean sheets this season. And you can get these all the cheaper guys to sub in midfield. So a lot of things that ways you could go. And I'm not confident which way I want to yet.
Yeah, because I think KDB is going to raise his hand up pretty soon. Mane has been doing his thing in the background as well. So I do agree that even if you're having three premiums, there are two or three options you can shift to in the background who still are legit picks
Yeah.
at that price point. So I agree with you. I don't have an opinion on the two premium or three premium thing at the moment, and I think I will have an opinion only when I'm building my wildcard team and considering both options and weighing them in a lot more depth than I would give a thought to it
Yeah.
right now, which is just a floating thought. So yeah, that's all I have
And
to
also
add.
the next
Bakar?
fixture shift you see in, sorry, Bakar, I want to just mention the next fixture shift from game week 15. We see for like Man United, you see from all the way from bottom, they go all the way to the top. You see a lot of other teams like moving up and down. Wolves go all the way bottom. Chelsea drop all the way bottom. So I think this is when, if you can maintain your team, you have a lot more information. And this season, I think we are going to be wildcarding late because the double game weeks will be around the mid 30s, as is traditionally the case. So this is when I feel we would have a lot more information, but there's a chance of being left behind as well. So I think we should keep an open mind to it, not decide
Yeah,
either
Zoph,
way yet.
just while you're talking about the fixture shifts, except for United, I don't see a prominent fixture shift for any of the teams. I don't think anything is not Navigable. I
No,
think the
the thing is the team is always going to be decent shape because we are engaged managers. Our team is never
correct.
going to be significantly behind the eight ball. So it all depends on
Correct.
which teams you feel confident in going aggressive on early.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The only reason you don't wildcard around game week 8 and is lack of information, which is a legit thought, because even now at every game week we're receiving a lot more new information. So I'm with you on that.
Bakar, where do you stand on this?
I'm still in the two premiums camp. As far as the two premiums versus
But you
three
haven't
premiums
gone a
debate
game
is
without
concerned.
owning Ronaldo yet. That's what I'm saying. Once you
Yes,
go through that feeling, I don't know. I just want that wild card in my back pocket. Like, if I see that, I'm like, oh,
this is
I,
the thing, right? At the moment, I just think that with how Ronaldo's fixtures have been, they've been favorable, um, and I haven't really given any thought of letting go of Ronaldo at any point in time as of now. But now this will become a more of a discussion in game week 7 and 8, right? Regarding Ronaldo, whether to own him or not, or Lukaku. I was looking at some of their numbers last season in the Serie A. In 18 games versus the top 10, Ronaldo registered an
no,
attacking return in
and
11 of
I know
them. So
what
he
you're
was
saying, and
very.
let me interrupt you. That is totally meaningless right now in the Premier League. He's playing for Man United, who have catered the attack. So I don't think that really matters, because I think that flat track bully thing comes into the matter of the team he played for and how Juventus set up in those big games. So I know
Yes,
I've heard
but
this
I
stat
mean,
hundred of times
it's
that he didn't
it's
do
it's it's
well,
the only data we can go with right now.
and I think it's totally irrelevant. It's
I
not.
mean, you can assume that it's irrelevant, but I mean the assumption is that the similar trends might occur in the
And
Premier
it is,
League as well,
and it's
because
a pure assumption. That's what I'm saying. Because the way
it is
United
an
have
assumption.
tailored their
I
attack, the way United have tailored the attack to constantly provide service to Ronaldo, and even in these big games now, United are going to be playing on the counter, and he is going to be the main outlet on the counter.
That's what I was going to come to. That I think he will be consistent in the big games, but given his record and the way he plays, where he's more of a poacher these days, his hauls are far likely to come against the bottom 10. And in the bottom 10 of the Premier League, as was the case against Newcastle, and when you look at his fixtures right now or after game week 14, I think those are the fixtures when he will haul. When you look at game week 8 to his run till game week 13, I don't really think he's going to be hauling enough to sort of justify the sacrifices we make in our teams. I think owning Lukaku and Salah is going to be a better combination because Ronaldo, even though I think he will score based on the numbers I have and on the data he showed last season, I think he's going to score in most of the games, but I don't think he has haul potential in those games. And
That's
the
fair.
combination of mid-priced players you can own is not worth the sacrifices you make by selling Ronaldo.
That's a good point you make, Bakar. I think Zophar's argument, though, out here is that there are no mid-priced assets that have put their hand up so far this
You
season.
have to make
There's
up
no
the money
money in
somewhere
the.
else. You have to invest that Ronaldo money somewhere else to make it up.
So when we're looking at the midfielders right now, between the 7 to 10 million price bracket, there's nobody who we are comfortable with as a pick that we're going to sacrifice on to get three premium players at the moment. That is the point that he's going to make. I've seen the teams on Twitter with three premium players, and they look like perfectly balanced, good teams to me. Because even the midfielders that we're talking about Gallagher, we're talking about Mbuemo, we're talking about Sarr. They're very cheap enablers. We're talking about the Game Week 8 wildcard. We're going to talk about Livermento. We're going to talk about Armstrong. Very cheap enablers. So I don't, until and unless a 7, 8, 9 million attacker puts their hand up and becomes untouchable, I don't know what you're compromising on really. So that's the debate that Zophar is talking about.
The premium
That
defenders,
is
that's the only thing I can think of that really the big compromises coming in is getting. And I think you can still get 3 good premium
Yes,
defenders out.
it's. I was going to come to that. It's not necessarily just the midfielders, right? It's if you look at someone like an Adam Armstrong, like I mentioned from Game Week 8 onwards, his fixtures are perfectly good. I mean, you can use those funds and invest in the defense. You can get a Diaz. Look at City's fixtures from Game Week 8 onwards. You can get double Chelsea defense, and that combination you get of owning those premium defenders along with someone like an Adam Armstrong is likely to outscore someone like Ronaldo and a lesser priced enabler, in my opinion.
Right. So what you're saying
I
is
agree
spread
with
the
you.
funds around. But what happens is once you spread the funds around, let's say your wild card, then it's almost virtually impossible for you to get to a
You're
3 premium
right. You're
setup.
right. But this is it. I mean, I stick to the value theory, and I do think that the third premium is highly unlikely to offer value.
Interesting, because I could possibly argue from the thing is it's probably going to be more of an issue game week 15 regarding how fixture proof Chelsea are during this run. For example, you see when United have Palace, Norwich, Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea have West Ham, Leeds, Everton, Wolves, Villa, Brighton, also decent fixtures. So I think that's when later on, and that's when Christmas also will come into play, right? A lot of rotation. Lukaku probably plays every game. Ronaldo misses a few. So I'm just saying, I think the debate is still open.
It is going to be open. I don't think it's going to be uh, there's going to be a definite answer on one side or the other. I think this is going to be a dynamic that's going to change constantly based on fixtures, and I think we'll get information in terms of how United play in tougher fixtures in the next 3-4 game weeks, and I think we're going to react to that accordingly later. That's all.
Exactly. And that's what I want, that
Yeah.
information, and then wildcard. Ideally, I might still do it if my team doesn't look in good shape, but that's probably the reason.
I don't know about that, Zoff. I'll tell you, the wildcard for me personally isn't about these premium picks as much as it is about the fringes around the premiums. So it's about getting your 3 or 4 defenders right. It's about getting your enablers right. It's about getting the 6.5, 7 million midfielders right. So if you're confident on those picks, then I'd pull the trigger because shifting for me, I've never had fear changing one wildcard, one premium player to another. So it isn't as much about the premiums as it is about the framework around the
Yes, I
premiums.
understand,
And
but like
yeah,
my point is like the guys of Ben Rama, Sar, you'd still be okay continuing with them. You could get in a Chelsea defender. That's why I quite like the fringe players that we have right now.
Are you sure about Benrama? I am not. I'm not entirely convinced. If I'm on a wild card, I'm probably happily getting rid. I'm not. He's not the kind of guy who scares me.
And I thought he was quite well, and I think he's quite lively in attack. And I think West Ham now are a good attacking outfit. So it's more of backing the player and team rather than the more form over fixture. That might change with Europa
fair.
League, but speaking of fixtures, let's move on to what Ella has been waiting for, the captaincy. Let's talk West
Yeah,
Ham. I think the three, let's stop talking much. Let's talk about the captaincy. I think the 3 main options this week: Antonio, Salah, and Ronaldo. So I think I'm
correct.
firmly in the Ronaldo camp, but I think there's a very strong case for Salah as well. What do you think,
I'm
Ella?
going to
Talk
be
us
in the
why you're
Ronaldo
in the
camp as well.
Ronaldo.
I actually want Pranil to present a case here so that I can argue against him.
There's no case. I haven't actually made my mind up. I don't think there's a camp here, and I'm hoping I'm educated after this conversation that we have. I'm not committing to any captain at the moment. But what's funny is I was talking to Adam Hopcroft, who's an Aston Villa fan, and I was watching Tom Freeman's video with Joe on the FF Scout channel as well. And both Villa fans are cap as things stand, captaining Ronaldo. And me being a United fan, I don't know if I have enough trust in our attack and in Ronaldo as yet. In my opinion, like I mentioned, the problem with United is how unpredictable we are. On our day, we are capable of putting 4 goals past anyone, but we are also capable of a shit show as much. And Aston Villa aren't mugs; they're a good team. So that's just something that's in my mind at the moment. And then it comes down to Mo Salah versus Brentford, and there's the away factor and the fact that Brentford have good statistics. But Brentford haven't faced anything like uh, Liverpool so far in the league. The fixtures that they've had, I mean, Brentford's fixtures so far have been Arsenal at home, Crystal Palace away, Aston Villa away, Brighton home, and Wolves away. These teams aren't comparable to what Liverpool are going to throw at them. And Liverpool, in my opinion, so far in the first 5 game weeks have been the most complete team in attack. I can rely on them to churn out consistent chances every 10-15 minutes. That's the faith that I have in Liverpool. I mean, they did really well against a Crystal Palace without two of their wing backs and two of their best wing backs, and their play relies on these wing backs as well. So I don't know if Brentford, despite looking so organized, it was very impressive that they did not give Wolves even an inch in that game. But Liverpool are just going to be a different proposition compared to what they faced. The other two factors that come into play here is that Salah sort of not as talismanic as Ronaldo is at the moment. I mean, you can bet on the fact that majority of the chances that United create are going to fall on Ronaldo's head or feet at the moment. I don't know if that's going to be the case with Salah, where he's splitting the chances a little bit with Mane and Jota as well. But that aside, he's got more avenues as well. He's got a good assist set as well, and it's the best I've seen him play in the last 3 or 4 years. He just looks really sharp at the moment. So that's the dilemma I'm playing with. Another factor that Adam and Tom both pointed out is that Villa have been used to playing in a certain shape in the past 2 or 3 games with three at the back, and they are not going to be able to field Axel to Tuanzebe against Man United. So what happens with the shape? Do they go to four at the back? Do they get another centre back in that team? We don't know, but that's something worth monitoring as well. So this is the conversation, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer in this case. I think it really is a 55-45 call. And when it comes to Antonio, yeah, Leeds United are going to be really open, and Antonio is going to get a fair chunk of chances. But as an FPL manager, I don't know if I trust him as much as I trust these two at the moment. That's all.
There's no reason not to captain Ronaldo.
I agree. I mean his stats since he's joined are the best in the league. I don't even want to go into the details because you look at every single thing: shots inside the box, penalty area touches, XG. He's right up there. I am usually the one who's advocating captaining midfielders, and even I'm convinced on Ronaldo this week. You mentioned the fact that Brentford, the only team, like only decent team they've played attacking wise on paper, has been Wolves and to a certain degree Arsenal. Well, Villa at the moment they're fourth for XG conceded. They do have good defensive stats, but they've also played. They've also played the very favorable fixtures. They've had very favorable fixtures. Even this week, Everton I consider as a favorable fixture without Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin. So 4 of their 5 fixtures, with the exception of Chelsea, have been easy as well. So I won't read too much into the fact that Brentford's fixtures have been easy, which is why their numbers are good. I mean, the same is actually the case for Villa as well. So I would just go on the player who has the better stats, and that's clearly Ronaldo. And the fact that the home and away advantage is very critical. 59% of the goals this season have been scored by the teams who've been playing at home. I just don't think this is the kind of fixture where Liverpool will win 3 or 4-0 personally. While I think this could be a game in which Ronaldo can easily brace, and his involvement is so high that I just think he's the better option.
Thinking about it, I mean, the conversation that we're having, I mean, that is exactly the way I see it. I think Ronaldo has probably a higher ceiling, but I think Salah has a higher floor. I just think he's more reliable. I just think Liverpool attack is more reliable. That's it. Because of United's Jekyll and Hyde tendencies. That's all.
I just noticed it's the early kickoff. I hate that. I don't think these timings
And
are
you
right.
probably won't be
Chelsea, Man
watching as
City.
well because
Yeah,
Chelsea are
I
playing
just
Man
noticed
City.
that.
Yes.
What sort of scheduling is this? I just noticed how can they put Chelsea, Man City the same time as?
So the game was actually supposed to be later, but there's a concert at Old Trafford, which is why they have to push the game back.
That's what it is.
So
Doesn't make
there's a
sense otherwise,
scheduling change that happened.
because it's a TV conflict right there. So Ronaldo captain, I think I'm pretty set on that. So LR, are you 60, 40, 80, 20 or where are you leaning?
60-40 Mo Salah at the moment.
Interesting. The only United fan on here.
I think this is the first time in our FPL careers and of knowing each other that I'm captaining Mo Salah and neither of you are captaining Mo Salah. If that happens, I
It
think it'll
feels
be
a
the
bit
first time.
strange.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think
that's-
it's very, very rare. Doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
Right.
Yeah,
Move
it's
on
the
to our
first time.
teams.
And I just want to say we're on Tuesday. My mind has been wavering in the past 2 days every 1 hour. So I don't know where I'm going to be on Saturday. I think just all three of us as content creators have that freedom to change our mind even 1 minute before the deadline. So yeah. All right. We're reading our teams.
Your team first. Sir.
Right. For the benefit of the listeners, I'm just going to read it out very quickly. In defense, I have Trent Alexander-Arnold, Luke Shaw, and Luke Ayling. The thing with Luke Ayling is that even if he's not playing, 0 pointer is probably better than what he's going to get if he's playing. So I'm not too worried about that at the moment. Sanchez as my keeper, I didn't mention that. In midfield, I have Salah, Greenwood, Rafinha, and Benrahma. And up front, I have Ronaldo, Bamford, and Antonio. As things stand, Trent is flagged, Ayling is flagged, Rafinha is flagged, and Bamford is flagged. So I'm not going to make any moves until Friday or maybe even Saturday because there's just too many unknowns. If everybody is fit, I'll probably switch Webster out for a defender, a 2-week punt, because I'm pretty much made up my mind on wildcarding in game week 8. So I'll be looking at maybe Semedo, or I've been looking at some random names like Tarkowski or Vestergaard or even Sufal, who has Leeds and Newcastle, if I'm not mistaken, in the next 2 game weeks. So just looking at a 2-week defensive punt at the moment.
Yep. I think Semedo is decent for the next 2.
I wish I had a route to Marcose. I just don't have a route to Marcose. So I'm thinking and trying to plan my moves in a way to get Marcose. The only way that happens is if Rafinha or Bamford are unfit and I go down on these players to move Webster up to Marcose. That's the only thing.
Right. Bakar, your team?
At the moment, I have Sanchez in goal, Shaw, Trent, Dean, Benrahma, Salah, Greenwood, Rafinha, Ronaldo, captain, Bamford, with basically no bench. I've already made my move, Ferran out for Sar, and in case there are no injuries, this is how I'm likely to line up.
Right. No benching dilemmas really because there is no bench, obviously. Right. Similar squad. Sanchez in goal, Shaw, Trent, Ben White in defense, Greenwood, Torres, Salah, Rafinha, Benrahma in midfield, Antonio, Ronaldo captain. So who do you guys play, White or Semedo? I think Arsenal have been looking better. I think Arsenal might keep a clean sheet.
Yeah.
Silence.
I would play. I'd probably play White. I think they have
bookies have
chance.
Arsenal slightly better. I think around 8% better last time I checked.
I'd play Semedo.
Yeah.
It's the North London derby. Zoph. I don't see Spurs not scoring. I think that occasion sort of comes into play as well. However, defensive Arsenal want to be. They do have Son
Doesn't
and
come
Kane.
into play for Arsenal also in terms of them racing their game at home?
It does. It does come into play for them, but I rely more on Wolves for a clean sheet, and I think Semedo has a higher chance of an attacking
returns, White has
return as
Just
well.
to help you out with your decisions off, Spurs are 19th for shots and big chances this season. 19th.
Yeah, but
I told you, right?
It's a fixture thing.
Zoph saw that game. It's a fixture thing, and now they have creative midfielders. They had no creative midfielders earlier. Son was injured for 1, 2, 3 game weeks.
That's probably one that's going to go down.
Even with Son, they've struggled. I mean, it's not as if they've been very good even with Son.
Yeah, Kane doesn't really look like he wants to be. The Kane looks a shadow of the player we saw last year. Hopefully he gets it going again.
Yeah. Just before we move on, guys, I mean, a couple of people in the chat mentioned we're not giving Antonio as much attention as we should. Let's talk about Antonio a little more. Leeds might not have a fit center back. Are we not looking at him enough? Why are we not
I,
trusting him? I mean, if you're looking at stats, he's always been on the top of NPXG stats. He was on the top of NPXG stats per 90 amongst all players last season, not attackers, not midfielders, not forwards, and he's up there for
Yeah,
underlines this year as well.
he's
And
the decent shot.
Why aren't we trusting him as much as we should? What's the thinking there?
No particular
Genuine
reason.
question.
Just a premium attraction. That's what it is for me. Just a
agreed.
thing with the
Because
premium.
all the stats, I mean, they are pointing towards an Antonio Hall as well. It's just that I trust Ronaldo slightly more, and the fact that he's going to be on penalties, I think that's something which is important, and the home and away factor. Those are the two things which are making me go Ronaldo over Antonio. But I do think he's a very very strong option.
Yeah. And also just saying monitor whether he plays on Thursday or not, because I won't be surprised if he plays on Thursday in Europe as well. Does he have a European game this weekend,
No,
this week before
this week they are playing you guys tonight, I think, in the Carabao Cup.
tonight, and then must be no game obviously after that. So cool. So just monitor that as well as
Yeah,
fitness, etc.
I think
as
he
well.
might start in the cup because he didn't play in the weekend. I think he might get some minutes in the cup, so that should be interesting.
Yep. Yeah.
Right,
All
let's
right.
wrap up.
Move on to questions now. No questions.
Let's we'll do the questions, of course. So you can wrap up the main section of the pod. Now we can move on to questions.
All right, guys, throw in your questions in the chat section. We'll answer them. We'll give it about 10, 15 odd minutes, guys.
Yep.
All right,
So
cool.
there were some points people were making earlier in the chat about that how Ronaldo needs. I'm okay with selling Ronaldo for that short fixture period. I think when they have it from game week 9 to 3 weeks, the problem is my point I was making is getting all him back alongside Lukaku is a bit trickier without a wild card.
Yeah, fair enough. I think what you do, and I think you're a good enough manager to do that, is that, and I think it's advice you need to give me as well if I'm on that 80 game week 8 wildcard and you're not, is making sure that our structure is in place so that we are not spreading the funds too much and we're pricing ourselves out of that to move switch to a premium if at all we want to do it.
Right. I think the questions have started coming in. Best keeper going forward. I think Ramsdale is probably who I would plump for now.
Yeah, Ramsdale, and one of the keeper that I'd be interested in, who I'd be considering on the wildcard that I have in my wildcard notes at the moment, is Gaita. I think Palace have also looked pretty good in defense, and he also does a fair amount of passing from the back. That's how Vieira has him playing. So he's the one I'll be debating along with Ramsdale when I'm making that decision. Is getting Antonio back with -4 worth it? Who are you selling, Gleb? Irrespective, I think getting Antonio is fine for a
You hear that,
-4.
Bakar?
Yes, I do.
Adi Greenwood out to be patient. See if he's getting minutes today. If he's not getting minutes today, start him against
United
Fulham.
are playing tomorrow, aren't they? I think they're playing tomorrow.
Today or tomorrow in the Carabao Cup. Just wanted to mention that.
Tomorrow, I think. Yep, tomorrow.
Tech is easy. Is asking Sar or Benrama. Good question. What do you reckon if somebody doesn't own and has to jump onto?
Sar.
Yeah, I think I agree with that answer. I think I just agree with that. Penalties. Benrama could be on pens though. I wouldn't be surprised.
That was hilarious. Yeah. Bringing on Mark Noble to take on a penalty. That's so Hollywood.
Moyes did mention that Rice is their second.
He had the ball.
Taker,
He had the ball to take the penalty. That's what De Gea also said post game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gavin is asking if Torres is a must sell. No, Gavin. When you bought Torres, you knew that you had to take the odd benching on the chin. So take it on the chin. He's not a must sell. If you have other problems in your team, solve them.
Agree. Would you go for a Man United player after the wild card in game week 7 to 8?
Would you go without a Man United player after the wild card in game week 7 to 8? Yeah. I am open to it.
I'd probably go without.
Definitely no defender because the run for defense looks far more tricky. Ronaldo is up for debate. But I guess probably for short term. Go ahead.
Would you sell Jota to Sar? I wouldn't sell Jota. I think it's a week too early to sell.
Not this week.
Yeah. I think just all three of us are without Jota. We've been extremely lucky. So fortunate to see off this Jota. Just lucky people.
ASM thoughts.
When the fixtures become better, how are the fixtures for Newcastle? Let me
They're
look at
actually
them.
decent. They're actually
They're not
decent.
bad.
Yeah, Watford, Wolves, Spurs, Crystal Palace. They're mixed actually. They're not that good. They're mixed.
I don't know. I don't know about them. I wouldn't. They didn't do much against us, so I wouldn't judge the Leeds United game because the Leeds United defense makes look any attack look good. So I won't. I'm not sure about that.
Right. There's somebody with a question. How come Antonio is a captain option Leeds, but Ben Rama is a... I don't think we ever said to sell Ben Rama, is it? I think we were just asked Ben Rama or Sar. I don't think
Yeah.
either
Yeah,
of us
yeah,
said to
yeah.
sell Ben Rama.
Oh, Ben Rama is a definite hold this week.
Yeah.
Not even a question.
Gallagher or Sar? Gallagher's fixtures short term tough.
Tough, yeah. I think Saar to Gallagher is the move after 3 or 4 game weeks, if at all you want to make that move.
How tall is Big Man Bakar?
6-2.
Wow, Bakar, that's tall. I didn't know. I didn't know you were 6'2". Uh, Sell
TJ.
Bamford for Antonio. No, I think you bought Bamford for the midterm. His fixtures are pretty decent after as well. So see if he's fit, and if he's fit, don't sell. I reckon. What do you boys think?
Agreed.
Agree. And we've
I
got a
agree.
super chat asking the same question. Do I go back to Antonio from Bamford? If Bamford is declared fit, nah.
Agreed. Stefanovic is asking best player to replace Greenwood. At the moment, if you want to get rid, it's Sar.
Yep.
You
There's
boys
nobody else
agree?
in the mid price bracket really, because I might have said Mount if he didn't have that problem from last weekend, but not now.
Correct. Uh, Zoph, this one's for you from Thomas Morris. Is Rudiger worth the 0.5 million over Christensen?
That's an interesting question, probably because the thing is with Christensen, he is a bit more rotation prone than Rudiger, but you could probably get an additional 0.5 usage somewhere else. I think probably just spend that 0.5 extra on Rudiger.
Cool. Mm, hold or sell Adama Traore?
Tough one.
I mean, this is a luxury transfer if you're making it. If you can afford to make it, then I'd probably sell. But if you can afford to save the transfer, then that's probably the move to make.
If someone can do Traore to Sar for free, would you do it?
If two frees are available, then yes.
Somebody's asking how nailed is Alonso considering Chilwell is going to be fit too. We discussed this earlier in the pod. You might want to just go through that. But Zofar, do you think it's a good idea for me to read out that exact Tuchel quote when he was asked about Chilwell and Alonso? I think it might help people and just let them decide for themselves. This is what Tuchel said when he was asked about Ben Chilwell and Marcos Alonso. Chilwell came from a Champions League win and from 90 minutes and a strong performance in the final, and had a good end of the season in general. Then it was individually for him a very tough Euros because there were chances, I think, when he thought he could have played and he did not. It was hard for him to totally relax and to get this personal disappointment that he would never put out. He was never put out on the team off his shoulders. And when he arrived here for preseason, I felt he was a bit mentally tired and still worrying about the situation. Wow, that England snub really, really affected him. Marcos was here the whole preseason. He did every single training session and he took this opportunity and was so great with such huge quality and attitude. So Marcos was crucial for us from the first day in training and then he delivered in Chile's position. And these are our two specialists for the same position. So this is a tough competition for both of them. We had talks with Chile about the situation. There are no further worries for Chile. He has to be patient and keep on training. I think the key line from this entire paragraph is that he delivered in Chile's position. Is Tuchel the kind of manager if somebody's first choice he let him stick until he doesn't perform? Zoff?
I was actually watching a YouTube documentary about this, and it's very much opposition based. And like I said, the trick now is Alonso's probably going to play against City because he has a shirt right now. He's been playing well. Then probably against Juventus as well. So Southampton might be where Chile gets his return. That's how I would predict it.
Yeah, irrespective, I'm definitely, if I'm making the move on Marcos, I think I'll make it after watching who plays against Juventus. I think that's a
Absolutely.
good shout there. Also, we have 890 people in the chat. Guys, make sure you're liking the stream and subscribing to our channel because it helps us get found. So make sure you're just liking the channel. Please do that. We'll really appreciate it. Last couple of questions, you reckon, boys?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Zoph making any moves? I think I didn't forget to mention Torres to Sar will likely be my move.
All right. And ASM in for Ings. I'm not too convinced about that at the moment.
Same.
All right, I think that's it. We've
Yep.
covered pretty much everything there is to cover. So thank you so much for being with us today, guys. We really, really appreciate it. Make sure you're hitting the like and subscribe button. We'll be tweeting out the episode in about 5-10 minutes as well. So if you're on Twitter, do share the love because it helps us getting found and it helps the YouTube algorithm. And we'll see you next Tuesday. May your arrows be green. Any last words, boys?
Very much. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the discussion.
Appreciate the support. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye bye. See you next week.